What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another NBA Rundown brought to you courtesy of Run Pure Bets and Run Pure Sports. Please like and subscribe to the video so we can continue to bring you solid, actionable gambling content. I'm here today with Hoop. Boy, it's been a big weekend for Run Pure. I mean, I don't know if we have any time to count down all the victories. I know Kegger killed it. I had a pretty good weekend. Joey had a pretty big weekend, but you guys over there on the DFS side kind of dwarfed us all there with the great showing that you guys had.
Yeah, I mean, so me personally, I was lined up, looking nice going into Sunday for the PGA. Talked to Big T Sunday morning. We're like, yeah, we both got these sweats, blah blah blah. You never anticipate that you're going to be live for the millie at the end. So I was sweating. I had a chance to win 150K in the DraftKings contest. Long story short, I ended up falling a little bit, finished second for 50K. So, good weekend. I was all excited. And then I was like, you know what? There's 2-3 holes left. And Big T is one of those people. He doesn't pull up the DraftKings app until it's all said and done. So he doesn't know where he's at. I'm like, I'm just going to pull up because, me and Tony had that conversation this morning. Pull it up. He's in first and second with like 2 holes to go. I'm like, oh, shit, here we go. So I sent him a text and, of course, didn't respond because he's just superstitious like that. And he doesn't want to know what he needs or doesn't need. And, sure enough, he got it done for $1.2 million. Phenomenal performance, obviously, but it was a good weekend all around at Run Pure. I saw, last night a couple members. I know one member won like 63K and I believe it was on FanDuel, took down their main contest. We had a couple other members taking down like 10, 12,000. So it's been a phenomenal run lately for, not only the coordinators here, but the members have had some really solid hits as well along the way.
Yeah, I mean, the core that you guys provide is just so helpful, and I've been enjoying using it as well. So I can't wait to figure out who's going to be in the core today in the NBA because as fun as it is to pat ourselves on the back, right? We got to keep working, keep trekking ahead, and we're going to continue to do that. And the first game we'll start with is the Milwaukee Bucks, running it back against the Wizards. Now, they played, what was that, Saturday night, right? And I think the Wizards closed around 10, so they definitely covered. It was 119 to go. The Bucks scored the final 6 points to get the victory, but not the cover. And the winning DFS team that day had Russell Westbrook and Giannis on it. I'm pretty sure as Westbrook went for 80 and Giannis had like 70 something. So, a couple questions here. The total's 242. Still, I don't want to play an under in this game. And no. So what are your thoughts here? Do you think the Wizards can cover it again? And would you be putting those guys in your lineup again?
Yeah, well, on Saturday, Bradley Beal did not play. He's expected to play tonight. So obviously,
I have it says in. I'm sorry. Yeah, left soreness. Got it.
Yeah, so he'll be back tonight. Obviously, Westbrook had that monster performance without him last time out. I think he's still in play, but we have some studs on the slate for DFS purposes, so I don't think you absolutely have to get him in there. Giannis, on the other hand, I think is a phenomenal play tonight in all formats. This is an ideal matchup for him against this Wizards team. They have no chance of really stopping him. What did he do? He went for 33, 11, and 11, and that was probably more of a bottom-end performance for him in this matchup. I think he smashes tonight. One of the top 2-3 options if you're going to spend up. Chris Middleton's in a good spot. Drew Holiday's cheap on FanDuel at 5.8K. A lot of plays here. I mean, anytime you're going against the Wizards, there's going to be some viable fantasy options. That obviously is the case tonight. I think even Dante DiVincenzo is an option. He's 4.5K on FanDuel, a little more expensive on DraftKings, but you're going to want some of these guys in your lineups tonight. I mean, that's a massive team total, 125 points. And the good thing here is going against this Wizards team. This Wizards team, I mean, it's been happening all season. They get up for these games against good competition. I don't feel very confident in taking them plus the 8.5. But if I was going to bet this game, it would be the Wizards plus that 8.5. The total, like you said, I mean, 242. I'm not taking the under. There's no way I'm taking the under in this game, but I'm not necessarily betting the over either. I think it's fine to stay away from that. But not a strong lean on this, but I would probably lean the Wizards with the 8.5. And then you have a plethora of fantasy options here: Giannis, Middleton, Holiday, DiVincenzo, and then Westbrook, Beal on the other side. The thing about the Wizards, we talk about it all the time on the show. It's really hard to trust anyone outside of Westbrook and Beal when they're both in there. Now, if one of them's out, yeah, you can take a look at some of these secondary pieces. But when they're both healthy, it's really hard to pull the trigger on anybody outside of Westbrook and Beal, and that will, be the case again tonight.
Well, yeah, you pretty much just answered what was going to be my follow-up question, which was just basically about Rui Hachimura, because I know that he had such a great game as well. But with Beal returning, he's pretty much off your radar now.
Yeah, yep. I mean, it's tough. I mean, yeah, he had that monster game, 50 fantasy points, but prior to that, he hadn't really broke 20 in like 7 games. So it's just if you've only played Beal and Westbrook in fantasy this season when their team's healthy, you've probably done all right, because these other pieces, not many good performances. So I think that's something we can continue to stick with here tonight.
Yeah, as someone who's kind of learned through experience, I'm not putting Davis Bertans in my lineup anymore. I keep landing on him and thinking, well, he could have a good game, and just a lot of snowflakes next to his name so far this season. Yeah. So I think we're in agreement here. We both like the 8.5, and we both kind of lean the over, but 242 is so high. There's really no reason to get involved, especially on a slate that's so big. So let's go to another game that I think we are going to be in agreement on, and that's the Sacramento Kings heading down to Charlotte to take on the Hornets. I think an interesting part of this game is I think we're going to see the two front runners for Rookie of the Year go against each other. I was hoping for that when Charlotte did their road trip on the West Coast before the All-Star break. Halliburton was out with left knee soreness in that game. In this game tonight, I do not see him on the injury report. So we get to see these two square off. I think they might match up against each other, and I think that could be a lot of fun, because Halliburton's really made his name and got his minutes. He's been good on the offensive end, but really as such a solid defender for a rookie, it's really impressive to see what he's doing out there. One of the few bright spots for the Sacramento team. Now, they're playing a Charlotte team that has nobody on the injury report, so that's fantastic news for them. We're going back to the three guard lineup, right, with Rozier, Graham, and LaMelo all kind of sharing those minutes. Of course, Gordon Hayward's been so good. Maybe their weakness in the middle, but Zeller's been all right, not necessarily from a DFS perspective, but just from getting the wins, boxing out, cutting to the rim, I'd say average rim protection, but he's getting it done for this team, and this team has by far exceeded expectations. I'm holding an over 23.5 ticket in there at 19 already, so I'm pretty happy with how Charlotte's played so far. Do you expect them to get it done and cover this 3.5 point spread?
Yeah, so we talked about it before we hopped on, and I've been getting in a habit of pulling up the slate the night before on the sports books and just seeing if anything stands out. And it's funny because we both said the first thing we locked in was the Hornets minus 2.5. Now it's 3.5. I saw it at 4 in some spots, so it's moved in that direction. I really like the Hornets here at home. I mean, obviously they like the 2.5 better than the 3.5 or 4.5, but I think it's still playable. I think the Hornets at home here, they're at full strength. I think they get it done against this Kings team that just doesn't play all that much defense. Now, in terms of DFS, this is a tough game. For mainly one reason that you mentioned, the Hornets basically have all their guys. And, in this day and age of NBA DFS, you're not going to be targeting guys all that often when the teams are at full strength, because there's so many injuries, which presents so many value opportunities. And that's just the situation we have here. They're at full strength. It's really hard to pull the trigger on any of these guys. They're all priced pretty accurately. So especially on the Hornet side, I don't think you can really play anyone for DFS. On the King side, Darren Fox is always going to be a good option. The problem with him, though, now is this price tag is up there, and it's really close to guys like Luka and Giannis and Jokic and James Harden. It's not that much of a difference. And, I think you find the money to get up to those guys. Harrison Barnes has been playing well. He's 6'6" on DK. If you fall in that range, maybe he's a fine play. But no one here is really going to be a core play in this game, mainly because mostly at full strength. Obviously, Whiteside's still out for the Kings, but that's not a huge difference. I mean, a lot of guys split up those minutes and usage. So for me, the favorite part about this game is the Hornet side, and really not too much for DFS purposes here.
The total is 239 in this game. I took the total in the over. It's 239 again when they played the Hawks, and it was looking good until the Kings went on like a 5 minute scoreless stretch in the second quarter, and then at
Yeah.
that point, even with the high pace and Trae Young and Darren Fox just taking turns making layups, they couldn't get to the total here. Do you think I go back to the well here, or should maybe I use Saturday night as a cautioning point and stay away from this total? 239 is pretty high. I need 60-point quarters.
Yeah, I just struggle with these big totals. Like I don't want to bet the under, but like I don't know if I necessarily want to bet the overs either. It's just
Yeah.
it's tough. I mean, if you see a blowout one way, you're probably doomed in terms of getting there. Um, I don't have that strong of a lean. I mean, if it stays close and competitive, yeah, I think that the 240 is very realistic. I'd probably go over, but I don't know. It's a tough play for me.
All right. Well, and that's fair. We don't need to bet every game, and we'd rather have you say, "Hey, stay away from this," rather than give out something that you're not necessarily feeling that strong on. Let's see if you're feeling strong about this next game. The Spurs, 19-16, head to Detroit to take on the Pistons. Let's look at the injury news real quickly for this one. DeMar DeRozan questionable. Derek White questionable. But I was reading this morning, and I think that he's likely out. No Dennis Smith Jr. Wayne Ellington's doubtful, and Diallo has yet to make his debut. So, let's just go ahead and just assume that Derek White's going to be out. How do you like this game?
Yeah, Derek White potentially out, and then DeRozan hasn't played either. So are you kind of assuming he's out too again tonight?
Oh, it's just I read some stuff about White that he's not doing good on his injury. I didn't read anything
Yeah.
about
What
DeRozan,
about
though.
nothing about DeRozan because he's officially questionable, but he just
Yeah.
hasn't played with the personal reasons. I guess I'm assuming he's out, but to me that really doesn't matter. I look at this Pistons team and they're in the business of not winning basketball games right now. They don't want to win. They want to secure one of those top picks next year. And then you have the Spurs who they're obviously not a great team. They're probably not going to be there when it's all said and done, but they're in the playoffs as of right now, and they're playing to win games, and they have a good coach. So I really like the Spurs in this spot. I mean, I want to be against teams like the Pistons as often as possible when I'm betting. I mean, it's a team that's incentivized to lose. And no, I'm not saying they're going out there and trying to lose, but if they lose, it's not a big deal. For the Spurs, they want to win ball games. And to me, this 2.5, 3, I saw it's 3 in some points. It's not enough for me. So I'm definitely on the Spurs here. I already bet it. I might bet some more on it as well. Especially if we get news that DeRozan does play. I mean, it does seem like a pretty dicey area, but if DeRozan does play, I mean, that's another big boost to them. So I feel really good about this Spurs minus 2.5. I mean, it's at a number where basically they just got to go out there and win, which I think they do against this pretty depleted Pistons team. For DFS purposes, the DeRozan thing, Derek White news means a lot on the slate because if both those guys are out, we're talking about a relatively thin team here. And you're going to get a big boost to guys like Keldon Johnson. DeJounte Murray would obviously get a boost. Patty Mills, Lonnie Walker, Vassell. You'd have a lot of cheap guys that we could consider. On the Pistons side, the only guy I'm really looking at is Rodney McGruder with Wayne Ellington out. He played, I believe, minutes into the 30s.
He was in the winning lineup for the 100K on Saturday.
Yeah. So he played 28 minutes, got you 30 fantasy points. He'll be right around 30 minutes again tonight, I'd imagine. And he's perfect for DraftKings scoring with the 3-point bonus as well. So I really like him. That's another guy, Delon Wright too. Delon Wright I think is a nice play. You look at what he did last game, 31 minutes, 30 fantasy points. He has upside too. So he kind of got right around the value point last time out, but I think he definitely has upside. So Delon Wright's another guy I'll be considering tonight on the Spurs side. We just need to wait on that news. If White and DeRozan are out, big boost to a lot of these guys, and they become very viable.
Are you on the show this evening?
Yes, yep. We'll be on 4:45 Eastern.
So we're going to have to basically table this conversation. You guys will be picking it up tonight on the Run Pure Sports channel. It's so much fun to hang out with you guys, watch the show, and just kind of build some lineups as you're hanging out and having a good time. So we'll table that until then for the DFS. Now, I wanted to ask you, San Antonio lost by 35 last night. Does that make you, for me, I almost want to back them a little more, right? I feel like they're going to come in hungry, like they want to get the taste out of their mouth. And we see teams bounced back quite well. Are you with me there? Are you a little more eager to back a team coming off kind of an embarrassing loss like that yesterday?
I would like them a lot less if they lost a competitive game last night. I mean, they lost in an absolute blowout where their guys really didn't play any meaningful minutes. So you have nothing to worry about in terms of fatigue.
Right.
I mean, they got smoked by the 76ers. I'd prefer it. I'd prefer the massive blowout opposed to like a close win or even a close loss or a close win. To be honest with you, they're a good coach team. I don't think they're going to lose two in a row. I mean, I just really like the spot for the Spurs. I mean, I feel pretty good about it.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there. I think that blowout, especially with the Popovich coach team, I think they'll
Yes.
come in. They know what they did wrong. They should be working hard to correct it. And as you
Yeah.
said, with these lineups going in and out, right? I mean, these minutes are up for grabs. These players want these minutes. They don't want to get their minutes taken away by making mistakes on the defensive end, not showing a good effort, because Popovich has a lot of options, and he's not afraid to use them. So I'm with you here. I really like the Spurs here. This is one of my favorite plays, and we might be reviewing it again when we're at the best bet section.
Yes,
This
sir.
next game is a lot of fun. Too bad Joey can't come on Mondays, but I know he's going to be watching it and having a lot of fun. The New York Knicks are heading to Brooklyn to take on the Nets. They finally have fans in the arena. It'll be interesting to see how many Knicks fans make their way over to the Brooklyn arena. The total is 223, and Brooklyn's laying 8.5. Boy, you would barely know that this team has an MVP candidate out, right? I mean, like, look at the Lakers and what happened to them when they lost AD. I
Yeah.
mean, Brooklyn has lost KD, and they haven't missed a beat. I think it's great for all these role players to get some more time, and a lot of them are really establishing themselves. Even DeAndre Jordan, who we kind of written off as a bad player, saying, "Hey, no, I'm a serviceable fifth guy. I can
Yeah.
get in there with the starters. I can get some stuff done." And is Blake Griffin making his debut tonight?
He is
No,
not.
he's not. He's
He's
still going to
still.
be out.
Yeah.
TLC is probable. Derrick Rose is still out. Mitchell Robinson's still out. Peyton's doubtful. Quickly's probable, and no Austin Rivers. So, what do you think here? I kind of lean towards taking the points, but this wasn't a game that jumped out to me. My model had this at 8, so I didn't really see an edge. So I was just going off of handicapping and watching the games and how I feel about the teams. And I like the way the Knicks play hard and try and keep it close. I think
Yeah.
there's also going to be a lot of emotion in this game too. What do you think?
Yeah, it's a tough game. That 8.5 number seems just spot on. I don't really want to mess with it, to be honest with you. And like you said in the opening, the most important part about betting sports is don't force anything. You don't have to
Yeah.
bet on everything. And we always talk about it in DFS too. Like, we come to these games that are maybe crappy games from a DFS perspective. Don't force it. Just cross the game off the slate, move on, and go elsewhere. Go to the spots you feel more comfortable in. From a betting perspective, that's kind of where I'm at here. I just don't feel great with either side. And you know what? I'm not going to force anything. I'm not going to bet it. Now, from a DFS perspective, changes a little bit because, Derrick Rose is still out. Alfred Payton is questionable. So they're going to be relatively thin at guards. And I think we can take a look at, RJ Barrett, I think, is a strong play. Reggie Bullock, Quigley, Burks. I think 3 out of 4 of those guys have pretty big games, and they're all reasonably priced. So I think Quigley might have the most upside. He's showing some big time upside. He's the guy that's getting these closing minutes. So if he gets 30 minutes, especially on FanDuel, he's only 4.6K. He's a very strong play there. Barrett, 5.7K on FanDuel. I think he's a very strong play there. So these guys are a little bit better plays on FanDuel, but still in play on DraftKings. And then on the net side, kind of similar to the Wizards situation, where when these guys are healthy, so for the Nets, it's only 2 out of 3 of them, but Harden, Irving, the usage between those two is just so high. It makes it very difficult to trust any of these other pieces for DFS purposes. So, Harden I like tonight, but I think I like the other studs a little bit better. Like, I think I like Giannis more. I think I like Jokic more. Might even like Luka more. Yes, Harden can go out. He can go out and get 70, 75 fantasy points tonight. That's not out of the realm of possibilities. But we have the best fantasy producers in the NBA on this slate. So I'll probably lean elsewhere. Maybe it makes him a good tournament play. We'll talk with Big T at 4:45 Eastern. We'll cover it. But I lean those other guys a little bit more. Kind of the same with Kyrie Irving. He's too close to those other studs to really invest in. So for me, the only thing that really stands out in this game are those Knicks guards, who I have a lot of interest in from a DFS perspective.
Yeah, I mean, just from the pace, right? It seems like Giannis is so much more attractive going against the Wizards team that gets up and down the floor.
Yeah.
Forget the 8 seconds to get over the half court line,
No.
right? I mean, they usually got a shot up within 8 seconds,
Yep.
as opposed to the Knicks who are going to grind it out and probably give a lot more effort on defense. Harden's so talented; he can still get
Yeah.
it done. And if you're making multiple lineups, he might be a nice pivot, right? Because this seems fairly obvious that Giannis is going to be more attractive.
Yeah.
But if you're only making one or two lineups like I do, I think I'm going to go with Giannis as well. The total in that game was, hold on, where's my bookmaker tab?
223.
223. So yeah, you're getting the mix of the Knicks who are, I mean, yeah, the Knicks are usually around 210, and the Nets are usually about 225,
Yeah.
235, right? So they put it there right in the middle.
Yeah.
These 220 to 225 to me are the worst totals in the NBA this year. I think they're the toughest ones to handicap because usually you're getting the contrasting styles. So you really got to decide, who you think is going to dictate their pace of play. I think the Nets have been quite content to let the opponents dictate their pace. So I guess I would lean under. But there's no way you're going to catch me betting a Nets under. I mean, the only way it'd be like if we're doing some contests and you have to pick every game, right? I would pick
Yeah.
under.
Yep. Yep.
But it's not really attractive to try and take an under in a Nets game. What do you think here?
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, it's just it's really. I think betting totals in the NBA is very difficult this year. Very, very, very difficult, and that's okay. I mean, not everything's easy, and it's
Yeah.
designed to be that way. 223. It's contrasting styles here. Who wins out? The Knicks have dragged a lot of teams down with them in terms of slowing down the pace and grinding these things out. That's why the number's 223 and not 233, like you said.
Right.
No strong lean here for me at all, to be honest.
Yeah, it's funny. I think the edge on the totals the first 2 months of the season was a lot easier than the sides, but as the
Yeah.
season's kind of gone out and now everyone's models has more numbers, and that's the sports books as well. These totals are so sharp. The advantage is watching live because a lot of times they will correct. An example would be the Portland Minnesota game last night, right? I mean, it was on pace for like 210 and it finished at 226, closed
Hmm.
at 233, right? So if you would have gone in live anytime in the second quarter, take advantage of the extra points, you can do that. But I
Hmm.
think these totals are so tough pregame. From the DFS though, I think that's awesome because I think you're getting really close. Looking at these numbers, it's showing you really close about how many points you should be expecting in each one of these games.
Yeah.
So we'll keep that in mind as we move forward. And I think this next game is a tough game to handicap as well. I do have a strong lean, but I didn't place the bet yet. Definitely want to talk to you about it first. That's the Los Angeles Clippers, who are 25 and 15, 21 and 19 against the spread, going against the Dallas Mavericks, who are 20 and 17, 17 and 20 against the spread. If you filtered that, though, a lot of those losses were early in the season. Especially the ATS losses when they were laying a lot of points. And then they had their own COVID issues as well, kind of like what the Raptors are dealing with right now, where they were missing, just such a big part of their team. And then they were losing, and that makes your model think that they're not as good as they are. So I think this is kind of a tough one to handicap from a model. You got to watch these games and know these teams because you can't just plug in the numbers and have it spit out to you an edge. Right now, Dallas is getting plus 1.5, and I lean that way towards Dallas just because, like I said, I do think they're a tad undervalued from that one stretch where they were playing so poorly. And then also Patrick Beverley's out and Ibaka's questionable. Clippers have lost 4 of their last 5. Mavericks have won 7 of their last 9. Would you agree with me here? Would you rather be on the Dallas side?
Oh, this is a tough one for me. I think I
It is, huh?
might lean the Clippers a little bit. They
Okay.
they got their ass kicked last night. I just think there's a better team, and they're coming off a loss. The one thing that does concern me, it is a back to back, and we haven't seen it a ton this year where these guys are ruled out, Kawhi or Paul George, but. I wouldn't be surprised if someone else kind of sits here and Ibaka left early, didn't come back last game. Wouldn't be surprised if he were to sit out this one as well. I like the Clippers if everyone's in. I don't feel comfortable enough to place the bet though, so I'll wait and see. Dallas has just been a tough team for me this season to really pinpoint. So I'm gonna say Clippers if everyone's in, but I don't know if everyone's gonna be in.
Yeah.
DFS wise,
You got
yeah,
to
go ahead.
watch the show tonight to find out because,
Yeah,
I mean, right now I'd say it's like a 50% chance that one of the two Georgia Leonards rolled out by the
yeah,
time you guys are locking up on the show. I mean, we've just seen it all year. They don't play
Yeah.
back to backs. They're not really valuing the regular season, and now with the Jazz like almost firmly having that number one spot, it's not like they're like avoiding the Lakers
Yep.
by staying high. So
Yeah.
I
It's
don't trust
tough.
this team in the regular season, which is another reason I lean towards Dallas. I almost think that the game is going to mean more to them. Why don't you go ahead and break down like your DFS ideas?
Yeah, DFS wise, like Luca has a really good price on FanDuel. He's only like 10-2. That's just too cheap for him. I do like him on that site. On the Clippers side, Paul George, pretty cheap on FanDuel, 7.9, but there are some really cheap shooting guards that are good plays, so it's really hard to invest in him. If Ibaka were to miss, I mean, we can maybe take a look at Zubac or someone like that. It all depends. We're just going to need the news. And what is Ibaka officially? He's officially questionable. So that's 2 hours after the slate locks. Probably won't have the news at lock time. It's not major news if he sits or not, and we have a lot of value, so maybe it really doesn't matter all that much. But it's just something to monitor. And then outside of Luka on the Dallas side, like their secondary pieces have been disastrous for DFS purposes. Just no consistency, really up and down with their performances. So it's pretty much Luka or nothing for me, most likely in this entire game, unless someone's ruled out on the Clipper side.
Yeah, so let's just assume one of them's rolled out. Does that mean that you'll probably be playing the other?
Yeah, I mean, if we get the news that Paul George is out, then Kawhi we definitely want, and vice versa. If Leonard's out, you definitely want to play Paul George. It's very easy with these two guys because the other one typically has a really big game when when the partner's ruled out.
Yep. So just another reason to be tuned in tonight. I mean, it's already such a fun show, but we need this news, and I know that you guys are going to have a great time
Yeah.
with all the fun that we had this weekend. Just a quick reminder to everyone watching, please like and subscribe to the video so we continue to bring this actionable content to you. The next game that we are going to be going over is the Pacers and the Nuggets. I mentioned to you before I went on, Pacers aren't even in Denver yet. The snow has kept them from being able to fly in there. So looks like they're going to be a late arrival. Could be a tired team. I think we should keep that in our minds when we're making the handicap. Line's sitting at 4.5, and the Nuggets are coming off a pretty poor performance against Dallas the other night. Fortunately, Tyler had us on the first half. So we enjoyed that as Run Pure Bets teammates. But overall, I was kind of disappointed. Not that Denver lost, but the way that they lost. I mean, Dallas just handled them. So do you expect them to bounce back tonight? And how do you expect this game to go against the Pacers and their new addition, Charis Levert?
Yeah, so I really like the Nuggets without even knowing the news. I just like the Nuggets here at home, and Denver's always a tough place to play in. So if they're going to arrive late, I mean, that makes me like them even more. I put a little bit more on the Nuggets, once I heard that news about them not being there yet. And yeah, I mean, that's a nice little edge there for sure. So I like the Nuggets minus the 4.5. DFS wise, Charis Levert came back, played 27 minutes on FanDuel. They didn't adjust his price. He's 4.1K. He's going to be probably the highest. Yeah, he's going to be one of the highest.
55% owned, huh?
Yeah, he's going to be massively owned. Really tough to avoid him. I mean, 27 minutes. You got you the 23 fantasy points. He's only going to continue to improve. He's capable of contributing all across the board. So he is a very, very strong play there. DK got him all the way up to 7K. Tough to play him on DK. Brogdon, I think, is a strong play on FanDuel, 6.7K. He's definitely in the conversation. On the Nuggets side, Jokic, I mean, is just I really like this matchup actually against Miles Turner. I know Turner is pretty good defensively, but these are the kind of spots I like Jokic in where he's going to have to work for it. And I think he has to work for it tonight. I think he's a very strong play, 10-7 on DK, very similar on FanDuel. Really, really like him in this spot. So Jokic, very strong play. Charis Levert, strong play on FanDuel. Brogdon, strong play on FanDuel as well. Really like the Nuggets minus that 4.5.
All right. Yeah, I'm a little hesitant to play Jokic. I actually had him in the on March 4th when Indiana lost 113-103. But Turner did keep him in check. I think he only had 45 or 50 that night, which when you're spending 10-6 or whatever his price tag was, it wasn't able to get me over the line. So I might be looking to spend up in some other places. But I have a question for you, and this is more like just general theory. Now, going back to Charis Levert, when you know he's 4,100, right? You know he's probably going to be 50% owned. Do you just get him in there and then just hope that your other picks are going to be the same? Or is this a case where you're kind of encouraged to maybe like pivot and just know that if he has a poor game or something, you're ahead of 50% of the field? How do you attack those when it's going to be obvious that a player is value, but he's going to be high owned?
Yeah, so I mean, you got to look at it in a few different ways. The first way you look at it is say, okay, well, realistically, like, what's his floor tonight? What can we really, see him doing if he came out and had a really bad performance? And a guy like Levert, that floor is pretty damn high because he can contribute in all statistics. He can score, he can rebound, he can assist, steals, blocks. So that's one thing you look at. Then you got to look at the position. Is the position loaded with a ton of guys that could have monster performances? So we're talking on FanDuel, you're looking at James Harden, you're looking at Paul George, you're looking at Bradley Beal. Then you want to look at the overall scope of the value on the slate. And yes, we do have a lot of value plays on the slate, but man, that putting in that 4.1K price tag makes it very, very easy to get multiple studs in your lineup. So in this situation, I think, if we think he's 55, 60, you just hit that lock button and you move on. You just lock him in or go, if you think he's going to be 50%, at least play like 75%. I typically would like just hit the lock button and move on.
All right.
The floor is just, it's not a situation. A lot of these cheap guys are, one category dependent. Like if you're playing what's a guy like maybe Reggie Bullock, he's cheap tonight and people will be on him. He's a scoring dependent guy. He's going to have to go out and get you 20 actual points. Charis Levert, he could go out there and get 5 actual points, but still put up like 30 fantasy points. So a guy like him, I like just eating it and moving on.
Yeah, thank you. And I love learning all kind of just the little, metagame, the game inside the game of making these DFS lineups. So I think that's helpful for me and the other viewers that are maybe doing a lot of NBA betting and kind of new to building up these lineups and having fun like you guys do, sweating out the individual performances. The next game that we've got is the Memphis Grizzlies, who are 17-18, 19-15 against the spread, going against the Phoenix Suns, who are 25-12 and 25-12 against the spread. The Grizzlies are coming off. That was yesterday morning, right? And we like the under there at 250 points went up in a game against Oklahoma City. That surprised me. As much as just Memphis not being able to win that game against, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and 4 G League players. I mean, Pokulsvesky or however you pronounce his name, like, boy, for how skinny he is, he's starting to really find his spot in the league. I had him in a lineup that was nice. I definitely felt good about that one. So I thank Travis Mangone for having me get that guy in the lineup. But now we're looking at this Memphis team coming off. I mean, that has to be an embarrassing loss. Now they travel to Phoenix to play a team that's pretty good at home in a state where things are open. So they might have had some fun last night as well. What do you think about this game? Because to me, it's almost like the Spurs situation. Coming off that loss, I think we get the best out of the Grizzlies, and I lean towards taking the points here. But Phoenix is coming off a bad loss as well against Indiana, even though they weren't embarrassed. I know that they think that's a game they should have won. Should have 2 focused teams here. Who do you like? I lean towards taking the points, but I think it's a really tough game to handicap.
Yeah, it's a tough game to handicap. I mean, I'd probably lean the 7. Don't feel strongly about it. The Suns are a tough team, and I mean, we talked about it on here before. I mean, I think they're a tough regular season team. I don't think that they're going to end up, making big waves in the Western Conference. So, like these regular season games, they're still going out there trying to prove things and prove that they're real contenders. They're going to play hard. But the 7 is a pretty big number here. The Grizzlies have a capable roster. They have guys that can produce. Morant, Valanciunas, definitely, strong basketball players. Dylan Brooks as well. So, I'd probably lean the 7, taking the 7 with the Grizzlies DFS wise. Not a ton on the Grizzlies side. I mean, they're kind of getting back to full strength a little bit, and prices aren't all that good. I'll probably be off them. But on the Suns side, we definitely have some options. Chris Paul on FanDuel, again, 6.8K, way too cheap for Chris Paul. That 6.8 price tag, just too cheap. Ayton, 6.3K. Bridges, I think, is in play. He's, I believe, 5K-ish. Saric is kind of stabilizing himself into a nice little role. I think he's in play as well. So I'm going to be interested in some of these Suns guys for DFS purposes. Not so much, though, on the Grizzlies side.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring up Sarge. He's been closing a lot of games.
Yeah.
If Aiton's having problems defensively, Monty Williams has no problem giving him the hook, and it
Yep.
seems like the Suns' best lineup is with Sarge as that. I mean, I don't know if I consider him a small ball five. He's not that small, but he's not
Yeah.
that quick either, right? I'm
Yeah.
surprised that he's so effective. With Aiton's athleticism, I would think that he would be the better five and better defensively, and we've seen flashes of defensive brilliance. He just can't seem to get it together, and teams are, quite content to attack him. And Monty Williams, unlike Scott Brooks and some of these other coaches, right, he'll go ahead and make the change, and if Aiton's getting torched, he pulls them, and they'll close with Sarge. So that's something to keep in mind when you're building your lineup. It definitely gives Sarge more upside. And I mean, if it goes to overtime, I think that that would be huge. If you had some of those guys in your lineup. But you've talked before, these teams that are healthy and putting a lot of people out. I mean, you look at the injury report; it's Cam Johnson, and that's it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think it's tough to roster. I think that's a tough game to handicap. I like Memphis plus the 7, but I don't know if it's going to be enough for me to make a bet, because there's the other spots on the board that we already talked about that I like so much more. The final game of the evening, boy. It's a fun game on paper and with the names. We'll see how it turns out to play. It's the Los Angeles Lakers, who are 25-13, but only 18-20 against the spread, because they're laying a lot of points quite often. And the Golden State Warriors, who are 20-19 and 19-20 against the spread. The Warriors are coming off. I mean, they beat Utah, and then they were embarrassed by Clippers the night before. And I was actually thinking of the Clippers game a little more, because we saw Steph yelling at his teammates, which I think is the first time in history. And I'm a NorCal guy, and I watch a lot of Warriors games, and I haven't I haven't seen him
Yeah.
go off like that. And then I also wanted to bring up the fact that the Lakers beat the Warriors. No,
They
the
smoked
Warriors.
them. Lakers
Yeah.
beat them by like 30. And I think it was a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull up that log. How did I
It was
just
like
scroll past it?
117. It was 117 to
Oh yeah,
91.
117-91. Yeah, and that was the game I thought the Warriors were going to keep it close. It
Yes.
wasn't even close at all. Not sure what to make of this game. That game had no AD either. I
Yeah.
know we'll also be missing Paul Gasol, Alex Caruso. I mean, not Paul, Marc Gasol, Alex
Marcus Gasol,
Caruso.
yeah. And then
Yeah,
Kuzma is
Kuzma
probable.
and LeBron's always probable, right? So
Yeah.
I don't even notice that on there. What do you think of this game? I mean, I guess I lean the Lakers, but I definitely don't want to get involved. These are two teams that have been, I think, rather inconsistent since the break.
Yep. 100% they have been. I mean, I'm going to lean the Lakers too, minus the 2.5. I mean, I watched most of that Lakers Warriors game, and I mean, the Lakers just demolished them. It wasn't even close. I mean, they could get whatever they wanted. No hesitation, no pressure from the Warriors. It was just a easy dominating performance. They guarded Steph really well. I think I like the Lakers, actually. I mean, I can't bet the Warriors after what I saw. Yes, now this is a professional basketball team. They could easily come out and turn it around and, find some things in the film, all that fancy stuff. But man, give me the Lakers minus the 2.5 here. I mean, that performance, I mean, they smashed them in every single aspect of the game. DFS wise, LeBron, I think I definitely prefer the other studs. The one guy I do like, not many people talking about, Dennis Schroeder. I mean, he's with AD out, man. He just produces, and 31, 46, 31 fantasy points. He's 38 minutes, 34 minutes, 34 minutes. So you can plan on about 35 minutes, and he's the second best player on this team from a basketball standpoint. So give me him for sure, especially if he's going to be lower owned. On the Warriors side, same thing with Steph. He's too close to Giannis and Luka and Jokic for me to really consider. Andrew Wiggins has a cheap price tag. I think he's interesting, more of a last guy in your lineup, not like a building block. But if you end up on him with your last spot, I'd be fine going there. And yeah, that's probably about it for me.
All right, and just and a general basketball question for you: what did you take away from the Warriors' win over Utah? Did it affect how you view either team? I wasn't really surprised that the Warriors won. I was more surprised from the Utah perspective
Yeah.
that they lost, right? Because I know the Warriors are capable of doing these performances, right?
Mhm.
I just really expected a little bit more from Utah. And what did you take away from that, from the Utah Jazz perspective? Do you think it's a bad loss, or do you just like throw it out the window and just keep your numbers exactly the same?
Yeah, I'm not going to put too much stock into it. I mean,
Okay.
yeah, Utah's obviously played phenomenally well this season, but I mean, the Warriors have guys. They have dudes that can make it tough. And with Steph and if Oubre's hitting shots and Draymond from a defensive standpoint, Wiggins, like they have guys. They have capable NBA players. So I'm not all that surprised that they got up and won that game. If they ran it back, yeah, I think the Utah would probably win. But yeah, I'm not going to take too much away from it.
Yeah, so I personally downgraded Utah. I've already was said going into the break, I thought they were going to be one of the most overvalued teams
Yeah,
in the second half, not because they're a bad team, but just because you can't keep that level of performance for so long, and it's almost like you're worried that they're peaking a little bit too early.
yeah, well,
So I
yeah.
wasn't surprised to see a little bit of regression there. People who are using model based in the books, when they're using these models and they're seeing all these huge margins of victories, they're going to put these huge point spreads out for Utah every night. I'm actually going to be looking to fade them against big spreads. I think they're still going to be winning, and we'll probably end up with the number one seed. But I think the books might be overvaluing them here for a bit or two. So that's something that I'm looking forward to taking advantage of for the next couple weeks. And we'll see, number one, if I'm correct, and two, if I am, how quickly these books can adjust. So cool. This is a lot of fun. I think we had a great conversations about DFS
Yeah.
strategy, just basic NBA basketball in general, and broke down each one of these games and gave some strong leans for people who might have been on the fence. If they're not just tailing it, they're using the information to make their own picks. But hopefully, we said something that pushes you in one direction or another, makes you feel a little stronger about hitting submit on that bet. But speaking of bets, now it's time for Greg. I don't see Greg Russo in the chat, but it's officially his favorite segment. It's the best bet segment. I don't think that you've missed one yet, Hoop. I think you were
Nope.
right. Yeah, you're pretty good so far. So I can't wait to hear what you have, and I got my bookmaker up so I can place the bet the second you tell me. What is your best bet?
Oh man, so the best bet coming into the show, I was locked in on it. I was definitely going with this, but man, the Spurs they ruled out DeRozan.
Yeah, they did.
They ruled out
Dropped a
DeRozan
half a point. Now it's -2.
-2.
Yeah,
I'm gonna I'm sticking with it, man. I'm sticking with it. Give me the
yeah.
Spurs minus. Give me the Spurs minus the 2. I don't care. I think after they got smoked yesterday, I think they come out and beat this Pistons team. Just on their will to win and the coaching, I think is enough for them just to beat this Pistons team that's dead. So, I mean, just about 90% of the teams in the NBA, if they're -2 against the Pistons, I'm taking that other team. I don't care about the injury situation. Give me the Spurs -2. We're going to continue the undefeated streak today.
Yeah, I mean, we've said it a bunch of times. When the Pistons are getting a lot of points, you take the Pistons. When they give you these short spreads, take the other team, right? And the Pistons only seem to beat the very best teams in the NBA. The
Yeah,
Spurs aren't up there. If it was Brooklyn or Milwaukee or the Lakers, be a little more worried. But I think this is a smash spot. So I would say that I was going to place it as you said it, but I already have it in. So I'm with you
perfect.
right there. And another one that I've already placed myself, that I'm going to give out to everybody is the Denver Nuggets -4.5. We both liked this game before we heard the travel news. We think the travel news makes it an even better spot. I think it's just
Yeah,
such a great matchup for the Nuggets here going against the tired Pacers team. We know how these East Coast teams can look at the end of the West Coast road trip. I mean, it's just like running a gauntlet. Night in and night out, you're going against the very best teams and their arenas. With them having the home court advantage. And when you're an East Coast team, sometimes they're not used to the depth and the athleticism that having to run the gauntlets of these West Coast teams can provide. And my example would be, like my hometown Kings. I think if they were in the East, they'd be a playoff contender. But
yeah,
having to run this gauntlet in the West and go against Portland and the Lakers and the Clippers and the Suns, I mean, it's just too much. And I think that the Pacers will fall prey to that tonight. So my best bet will be Denver -4.5. So we took a couple short favorites, but I think that they're going to roll. Hoop, do you got anything else for everyone before we get out of here?
no, I mean, looking forward to it. Nice slate of games. This is always my favorite, especially for DFS. These like 7, 8, 9 game slates. What do we got? What is it tonight? 8 games. It's just a
Yeah.
nice number. I really like it. You don't feel like you're missing too much. It's easy to analyze every game and get a good feel for it. So, looking forward to this slate tonight for sure.
Yeah, and I'm going to be looking forward to your show over on the Run Pure Sports YouTube channel. It starts at 1:45 my time, 4:45 Eastern, and the show's fun every day, right? I mean, you guys are always having fun getting after it, but unless he's just completely hungover, right? I mean, it's gonna be one of the most fun shows ever, right?
We'll see. I haven't heard from him yet
I mean,
today, so we'll
yeah, I mean,
see.
I can't imagine, but I'm sure we're gonna get him, and there's nothing fun than when you're running pure. And speaking of running pure, I mean, you cashed what, like 60K yesterday, and it's like a blip on the radar.
No,
So
I
I
mean, I
want to
don't even.
congratulate you. I know that
Yeah,
Big T got all the run, but I mean, that's got to feel good for you and your family as well. Like you said,
yeah.
we had a lot of the team members were also able to take those cores and cash too. So I mean, you guys are really just doing such a great job, and I mean. I can't wait. It's 3 hours, but I can't wait for that show to start so I can start digging in to these lineups and trying to get up on that board with me. So if you want access to these core plays that I'm talking about, you need to head on over to runpuresports.com. Run Pure Sports is $80 a month. Then you add on, you want to be a bets team, I say do it together. It's $100 a month. You get access to both. You'll get access to my plays, HTP's plays, Tyler's plays, the Sports Keg, who's been absolutely on fire. I mean, the guy, Sports Keg won like 10K this season, 10K this weekend. Between NASCAR and everything, and like and UFC, and we didn't even mention it. Like that's how pure the team is running right now. I mean, it's unbelievable. Like the
And one
10K
thing,
that he won is just a blip.
yeah, one
Coop's
thing
doing a
I
great job with him. Go ahead, Hoop.
Yeah, one thing I did want to mention, it's going to be a
Yeah.
lot easier to get those combined packages now because it's all going to be under one website. Right now, it's kind of two websites.
Mm-hmm.
Effective, I believe this week, it's going to be all under one. So if you're already a Run Pure Sports member and you want to get the bets package, it's just going to be literally like one click away. You'll be able to add it on, very simple, one sign in place. Everything will be on one site. So that should be effective at some point this weekend. If you are a bets member, when your current subscription runs out, you're going to have to re-sign up in the same spot on Run Pure Sports under your account. You're going to have to re-sign up. We'll be sending out an email for directions on exactly how to do that, but it should be very simple, very easy. But I guess the main point is it's all going to be under one umbrella, one roof, easy to see, easy to find, easy to add on.
And the site was redesigned last week, and it was
Yep.
pretty easy to use before, but it's even better now,
Yep.
right? So, and I'm enjoying it. And the thing was, I've been saying all this great stuff that's been going on. I didn't even mention JJ's 9-1 college basketball run,
Yeah.
right? And what better time to be hot in college basketball than 3 days before the tournament starts? I mean, he's dialed in. He's been giving out all these great plays. If you are a member, you're in the Discord, and you're catching his live plays too. So, I mean, it's just been so much fun. I barely watch college basketball, and my bank account is loving it because I log in, I use the spreadsheet, I place the plays. A lot of times I don't even watch the games. When I'm logging in to do my NBA live betting, I say, oh boy, there's a lot more money in my account. College basketball must have went well again. So we're having such a great time over at Run Pure, great community. And when you're winning, everything's that much more fun. So Hoop, I wanted to thank you for joining us today. Tomorrow we'll be back with Mangone and JSU. And then Hoop will be back because I know you guys love watching him. He'll be back on Thursday, and we're going to continue this winning streak. So thank you for everybody for joining us. If you haven't already, please like the video and subscribe to the channel and Run Pure.